Hello, everyone. Welcome to Shamanism, Metaphysics, and Grace. Today, Jyoti has an astrology update for us that I am eager to hear, and I'm looking forward to having her share it with all of us. Jyoti, welcome.
Thank you, Lauren. Great to be here.
So, Jyoti, what's going on out there? It's crazy.
Yes, it does feel crazy sometimes. I just think that, the pressure is on. We're kind of being pushed
Mm.
to deal with old business, old issues, and the way the planets are, how the stars have aligned, so to speak. It's really pushing people's agenda. It reminds me, the image I have is like we're in a doorway and we're getting ready to step into, you know, a new energetic more than anything else. And the old patterns, that energy is too dense to go through the doorway with us. So we're kind of caught in the doorway, almost like a betwixt and between. Like today is betwixt and between yesterday, the winter solstice, tomorrow, the new moon. We're kind of like betwixt and between ourselves today. So I think that life is just kind of pushing us to shed what we can.
Jyoti, give some examples of what that might feel like for someone. I mean, I know what that might feel like for me, but for folks out there that might be a new term. What would that feel like?
That might feel like you're no longer this, but you're not yet that.
Mm, wow.
Okay, so you're between your past and your future, and you're in that doorway of opportunity where things are no longer the way they've been, but they are, and no longer, and not yet the way they're going. And
Mm.
I'm having some technical difficulty. Okay, I'm back. Um, and so we're right in that middle part, and what it can look like is family issues, career issues, um, feeling like you just no longer want to do things the way that you've done them before. That old expression of doing the same thing over and over in the same way and expecting a different outcome. It's kind of like coming to the place of uh, this didn't work. It's not going to work. And
Yeah.
so I need to figure something else out.
Oh, I love that. And so for folks, it might look like they're ready to leave a job, but they don't know where they want to go, or ready to move and they haven't determined the place, or even something simple. I need to change something in the way I relate to people, but I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Or how. Maybe but you don't know how yet, or how to step into leaving a job, and maybe you want to do something of your own business, entrepreneurial things, but you might not have all the information you need yet to actually set that in motion. And so it's kind of like this that limbo state of betwixt and between, no longer this, not yet that.
Okay, just for all of us who might be a little uncomfortable right now, is this going to change? Are we going to get some help with making those changes?
I think so. I think that we're being pushed. We're being pushed through the doorway. It's like a birthing process in a sense. And birth isn't necessarily pleasant. Sometimes it's very painful for the mother and the baby. And so we're just in a place where we're readying, but we're not yet ready.
Mm, mm.
We're preparing, we're prepping. And so the winter solstice chart is the chart of the last quarter of the astrological year. because the astrological new year is in the spring, at the spring equinox. So we're in this last quarter of the year, of the old year. And basically, it's Sun in Capricorn, of course. The winter solstice is when the sun is at 00 Capricorn, and Sag moon. And so it speaks about we're on the edge of the old moon because the new moon is tomorrow. So this winter solstice time frame is about tying up loose ends, finishing up old business, old ways of doing things, right on the horizon of the new with the new moon. And so it's mainly about not getting caught up in other people's movies, other people's stuff. Okay. Trust your intuition and your freedom needs over this next quarter, and be willing to reach out and ask for what you need. I mean, out of anything I could say about this chart, that's the most important piece. Mercury and Venus are together in Capricorn. This is refinement of mind. This is looking at your future. This is looking at where you want to be and where you're going. And it's just a question of getting from here to there. And don't don't kind of sequester yourself away, when you feel stressed and stuff. Don't kind of nobody even knows anything's going on because you're being stoic. It's like reach out and ask for help or ask for what you need. um
Jyoti, I want to talk about that for just a moment because that's something you've talked about often through our recordings is, being able to articulate your needs and ask for that need. And yet so many people struggle with this. And yet we're at this time that it's likely others are also experiencing something very similar. And so we could get support by talking with one another.
Yes, and sometimes it's just asking for a hug. Sometimes it's very simple. Sometimes it's just needing an ear to listen, and also being one, for other people that might be struggling as well. We're not a culture that reaches out and asks. And astrologically, with this North Node in Taurus, which will change, it'll move back into Aries and Libra. Right now it's Taurus Scorpio. So the tendency is to emotionally isolate when things are stressful, and the learning curve is to reach out and ask. And so, as a culture, we don't reach out, just generally speaking. We've had parents and grandparents who went through very trying times in the 20s and 30s, 1920s, 1930s, and everybody became very stoic because there wasn't anybody to ask. Everybody was in the throes of things. So now we're in the process of trying to break that pattern.
Mhm. Mhm.
Circumstances are saying, okay, it's time. That's one of those denser belief systems that can't go through that doorway.
Right. Okay. And that's where you speak often about us moving to a more community-based mindset and caring for one another in this new time. So this is one of the pushes for that.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yes, I mean we have to be that helper for each other. We have to be, because the way the systems are these days, the larger systems that are in place, sometimes people can't just get what they need. Sometimes it takes a village, to
Sure.
use a quote.
Sure. Sure. And I think one of the most powerful things that it took me half my life to learn is it's a gift to others to be able to help. And when we isolate ourselves, we cut others that we love off from extending their love and support.
Yes, and we cut ourselves off from it too.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And it's that old giving and receiving kind of energy, being the giver feels great. It releases endorphins when we're giving to other people. You know, we benefit ourselves besides the other person. And being the giver, in a sense, is being in the seat of power. You know, being the receiver is vulnerable because we don't know how, we don't know when, we don't know if it's going to be enough, you know, all those other things come up. And so being willing to be vulnerable to receive what we need, to ask and then receive what we need, gives the other person the opportunity to be the giver and be in that seat of power.
And so,
So
sorry, oh, sorry, Jyoti.
no. So it's kind of like we're giving even when we're receiving,
Sure.
and we're receiving even when we're giving.
Yeah. It's like that teacher and student exchange. Everyone's a teacher and everyone's a student at the same time.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So this is our learning curve for this period right now.
Yes, for this next quarter, about reaching out and asking for what you need.
Okay.
So now I'd like to look at the new moon for tomorrow. It's at 5:17 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is about self-nurturing. It's really about your own goals and how you want to set those goals in motion. It's about letting the old fall away. And the new year is coming. I mean, the calendar new year is coming. And so it's asking you to be willing to see deeper, to look deeper, to you know, get under the radar, so to speak, and see what else is happening. And it's also about remembering your gratitude, remembering your gratitude for what's been given or where you're at, or even in the midst of difficulty, um, remembering your gratitude.
Nice.
The North Node is still in Taurus. It's conjuncting the planet Uranus. And so, again, trusting your intuition. Um, and Jupiter has just moved into Aries a couple days ago. So, of course, it's in the new moon. And it's really about accessing your courage. I mean, Jupiter is going to zoom through Aries in 5 months, which normally is a year in a sign. And so for the next 5 months, it's like, you know, courage in the heart. What are the dreams of the past 12 years, at least, if not your whole life? And how do you begin to set those things in motion? How do you begin to actually implement and push past the fear? Sometimes it's, what do I call it? Kind of like a mindless fear. You know, we have different fears that crop up, you know, like, oh, all of a sudden I'm afraid to do this. Where did that come from? I never thought of it like that before, you know? And so, you know, pushing past those places, pushing past places of self-limitation. Oh, I can't do that. I've never done that. And well, maybe now it's time. Maybe it's time to dangle your toes off the edge of the cliff and see what lives there.
And Jyoti, help me understand this call to be courageous. Is there the energy there then with this shift in, yeah, for us to be more courageous?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, we're all hanging out in that doorway, you know, and it's just a question of, you know, your toes are wanting to go into that next room or that next space, that bigger space of your own life and your own choices. And this is a real push for taking courage and just going for it. I mean, some of the most successful people in the world have fallen flat on their face at least once, if not more. But they have that determination and that courage in the heart, and that willingness to pick themselves up and put one foot in front of the other and not take it personally. You know, it's not uh, um, a slap from the universe. You know, it's you your soul, you could say, or your spirit saying, okay, so you fell down. You're like a kid in fourth grade. You're in the playground, you fall down, you stand up, you dust off your knees, and you go back into the play. And this isn't to minimize the real personal issues that come up around falling down or not having things go smoothly or feeling confused, about what the future holds and unsureness. And it's not to minimize any of those personal responses. It's just to say that we're in a time frame right now where courage is there if we want to access it. In other words, looking to Jupiter instead of Saturn with the unreasonable fears. And we have choices. We have choices.
Yeah.
Can I muster the courage enough to step into what I've always wanted to do and know I could do if being given the opportunity? And with Jupiter moving into Aries, Jupiter is giving you the opportunity.
Sounds like the perfect gift. And for our listeners, I'm sure everyone has at least one thing that they have felt afraid to do in their lifetime that this might be calling them.
Yeah, and sometimes, um, I mean, I hesitate to say this because it can be pretty intense for some people. Um, but it's like at some point in your life, it's like, what do you have to lose?
Exactly.
I mean, what you have to lose might be very big for some people. And
Sure.
for others, it's kind of like, yeah, I've been hanging out in this doorway long enough.
Sure.
Time to
Yeah.
leave the doorway, the safety of that betwixt and between almost.
Well, in stepping back and taking all this in, it seems like this discomfort we've all been experiencing is a catalyst to get through that doorway and do that big,
Yes.
whatever.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. If you get frustrated enough, you will act.
Exactly. Sure.
Yes. Yes. And sometimes that fire has to simmer, long enough until it gets too hot to stay there, to stay with the status quo and what is and what has been, and say, okay, I'm just going to push off from the safe harbor and go out in the middle of the river and see who else is there and start the float down the river.
It's great. And we're not alone in this because looking to your right and left, there'll be others doing the same thing.
Absolutely. And there already are. I see people leaving, their old lives behind and just saying, okay, okay, tired of being where I am, in a sense, within myself, let's say, and with these old ideas and old patterns, and wanting something new, wanting something different, knowing that it's just time to leave the safety, perhaps, of where you've been.
Yeah. Wow. That's exciting, Jyoti. Anything else you'd like to share on this update?
Um, we're preparing for change. We're preparing for a shift in energies. At some point, in the new year, I'll do a look at 2023, at the year ahead. Um, but there's some big planets changing signs, and it's going to bring us into new opportunities and new ways of looking at things. And Pluto is going to leave Capricorn, where it's been for since the early 2000s, and enter Aquarius. And no, it's not the age of Aquarius. That's still 150 to 200 years down the road. But it's Pluto entering Aquarius is going to take us into a new dispensation, in a sense, a new approach to the individual, the group, a sense of community, and different ways of looking at things. And that happens in March. March 2023 is pretty much a big month this
Great.
next year.
Great. Great. We just need to make it there.
Yeah, yes, we'll make it there.
Of course you
Yes.
will. Yeah. Well, Jyoti, thank you so much. All your wisdom I know is enjoyed by our listeners. And I wish all of our listeners a safe and happy holiday period. And if you're traveling, to bring all your spirit animals with you for
Yes.
support. And I look forward to being back recording with you soon.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you very much.